Hey everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review, and today we're taking a look at the new DC Collectibles DC Comics Supervillains New 52 Deathstroke figure. This is the latest villain in the New 52 line from DC Collectibles to be released. It's hitting comic book shops now. And like with all the recent DC Collectible figures, it comes in your basic window box type packaging. We have the DC Comics Supervillains logo up at the top. The figure's clearly displayed in the window box along with its accessories, and then you have the name of the figure down below in the corner. And for this packaging, we're seeing some black and then dark bluish purple kind of highlights throughout the packaging design. On the one side you have a darkened in picture of the Deathstroke character, and then on the other side you have a picture of the figure. Also tells you it includes the sidearm, sword, and knife for accessories, and that the figure is sculpted by Jean St. Jean. Then on the back we have a thumbnail picture of the figure up at the top, then a brief little bio about the character underneath that, and then some thumbnails of other recently released DC Supervillain New 52 figures, Black Manta and Black Adam. And then underneath that we have a picture of Deathstroke facing off against the New 52 Green Arrow figure. Now, normally they have your arch nemesis facing off with each other with this. Other than in the TV show, the Arrow TV show, I never really considered Green Arrow an arch nemesis for Deathstroke, but I guess maybe because of the TV show and the fact that, like other New 52 versions of other characters like Nightwing and stuff haven't been released yet, so I don't know. I haven't actually read a lot of the comics with Deathstroke in the New 52 storyline, since I mostly just read the Justice League. Deathstroke really hasn't made much of an appearance in there, but as far as I know of, Green Arrow and Deathstroke in the comics at least have not been in the New 52 storylines have not been major opponents of one another, but I guess I could be wrong about that. And like I said, they are obviously in the TV show, the Arrow TV show, kind of nemesis for one another. So anyway, let's get the figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. The figure comes with a good number of accessories. He comes with a sword, a gun, and a knife. He looks very true to the New 52 look in the comic books. And I will say that probably out of all the looks of Deathstroke, his original look, his Batman Arkham Origins look, and this New 52 look, that the New 52 look is probably my least favorite. I still think it's pretty good looking, but out of the out of those looks, I think this is probably my least favorite look for the character. I don't know, he just looks a little too bulky, with the arm pads and everything. I'm sure that's probably Rob Liefeld influence, since I don't know if he actually designed this costume, but I know he was like the original artist on the New 52 Deathstroke comic book. But still, I don't think it's horrid looking or anything, and does have some cool features. So the figure, basically, he has a sword that fits on his back. The backpack, there's not a sheath or anything, but there's just a little hole in the sword, and then it fits on the little peg on his backpack. Now, it is easy to knock it off when you're kind of fooling around with the figure. If you touch it, it can fall off somewhat easily. When you're moving the figure around and everything, it doesn't fall off. It's easy to bump into it when you're kind of like fiddling with the figure, and it'll sometimes just pop off. So just be wary of that. He also comes with a gun, and he has a holster. The gun just kind of slides into the holster. It's not like a full-blown holster. It's just kind of like a clip that you kind of slide the gun into. Now again, the gun has a tendency, if you touch it at all, to fall out of this holster because it just kind of slides in there. And the more you kind of slide it around in there, the looser the plastic kind of gets. So just be wary that the gun can sometimes fall out fairly easily. it's not like it, you blow on it, it falls out. But like if you're trying to pose the figure and stuff, and you touch the gun, it can fall out. And then finally, he's got a knife that slides into a little sheath on his leg, and that obviously fits in fine. Now, see, there goes the sword. So he's also got these like canisters and stuff that fit off his vest that are made of a softer rubber. They kind of just hang down on his sides. I'm not a fan of this. I think it would look better without these, to be honest, but they're not detachable or anything. I mean, you could probably cut them off if you wanted to. And they can hinder a little bit, you getting the weapons off the side of his legs a little bit. Again, nothing major, but I think I would have liked this, and I'm sure it's comic book accurate, but I think I would have liked this without these. He's got on his wrists, looks like he's been taking fashion tips from Batman. He's got the little hook things on his wrists. And then he's got some cool spikes on his feet. Again, comic book accurate. Now, I've seen some drawings of this costume where he's also got like spike things on his legs like he does on his wrists. And then I've seen other pictures where he doesn't have that. And I think I like that better. I don't think I would have liked the little hook things on his legs. Again, the figure just is a little too bit bulky, and so that would just be one more thing to kind of add to the bulkiness. He's got chainmail here on the chest area, which is nicely sculpted on there. And then he's got shoulder pads, again, probably Rob Liefeld design with spikes on them. And there's a articulated joint, so you can lift the pads up so they don't hinder the arm movement, which is nice. So as I mentioned, the figure comes with the 3 accessories: his sword, his gun, and his knife. And he's got places to hold all 3 accessories on the figure, which is nice. There are some nice sculpting details on the accessories as well. With his knife, he's got some jagged cuts on the blade. And then the handle is silver with some wrappings on it, which is nice. Then the gun is all black, but again has some nice sculpting details. The magazine at the bottom, and just some nice gun sculpting details on it. And then finally the sword is all silver, but again has some nice sculpting details on the blade, some scratches and stuff. To make it look like it's had some heavy use out of it, and then some wrappings on the handle. Now, for the sword, I will tell you that he doesn't hold the sword super great. He holds the sword much better in his left hand as opposed to his right, but even then it can fit kind of loosely. His fingers are a plastic that a little soft, not super soft, but where you can kind of push it in so that he grips things better. But at the same token, when he put things like his gun in his hand, it kind of stretches the fingers out a little bit. Like when I first put the sword in, which was the very first accessory I put in his hand, he held it fine. But then after I had put the gun in his hand, it made his fingers a little looser. So the sword then after that fit in his hand much looser. But still, especially in his left hand, you can pretty much get him to grip it pretty decently. Though, like I said, he does sometimes drop it. And then on his right hand is really loose. So unless you kind of prying it between his fingers, it's better to put it in his left hand than his right. The gun, he holds very well. Now again, when you first put the gun in, because the fingers are tighter together, you kind of have to wedge it in there. But once you get it in there, then he holds it fine. And then like I said, because the gun actually kind of stretches his fingers out a little bit, once you get it in there, then it's not that difficult to get it back in his hand. But once you get it in his hand, again, he holds it pretty well. But again, you kind of have to be worried because you're stretching the fingers out with that because of the way the hands are designed, the more you put stuff in, the looser they kind of get to hold, the wider the fingers get apart from each other, or the fingers from the thumb. The fingers are, it's not like the fingers are articulated, but you know what I'm saying, the rubber of the fingers gets farther away from the thumb, and so the grip on the hand becomes looser. But, so the gun is what he holds the best, and he'll hold the gun in both hands without too much problem, so you can put the gun in either hand if you want. And then the knife, he holds, again, you kind of have to kind of wedge it between his fingers to get him to hold it really good. Otherwise it'll fit in fairly loosely in his hand, especially after you've had him holding the gun. But you can get him to hold it in either position, upwards or downwards in his hand, assuming you don't knock it out. But again, you kind of have to wedge it in between the figures to really get him to hold it. And same for the other hand. So he'll hold the knife in both hands, but again, you kind of have to wedge it in between the figures to really get him to grip it. If you just put it in there loosely, then it's not going to stay in very well. You can see it kind of flopping around and stuff, and usually it falls out. So again, he holds the gun the best, and then the sword and the knife you just kind of have to wedge between his fingers to really get him to hold them. But overall, he does hold the accessories pretty well, so I'm happy with that. And then, as I said, he holds all three accessories if you don't want him holding them in his hand, which is nice. Though, like I said, when you're fooling around with the figure and you bump into the sword and the gun, they will have a tendency to fall off. But when the figure's just standing, when you just have the figure standing there, then the accessories stay fine. So the figure stands just at about 7 inches tall, maybe just a hair under 7 inches. Compared to other, like the new 52 Batman, though, he is actually taller than Batman. Which to me, I don't know. I would think Batman and Deathstroke would be about the same size. I don't know for sure. I would think maybe Deathstroke's a little bit on the tall side with this figure, because he's also taller than Arrow as well. And then, just for comparison, here he is with the Arkham City Nightwing figure, which he's also taller of. But I would kind of expect him to be taller than Nightwing. But like Batman and even Arrow, I would think they would be about the same size. So he is a little bit taller than all three of those figures. And it's not anything major, but to me, I would again think Batman and Deathstroke would be around the same height. And here he is, just for comparison, next to the Mattel DC Arkham Origins Deathstroke figure, which is a 6-inch scale figure as opposed to the DC Collectibles, which are 7-inch. So obviously the DC Collectibles one is going to be taller than that. So articulation wise, this figure basically sports the typical articulation that you find with most DC Collectibles. Unfortunately, they didn't give him any added articulation, which would have been nice for a character like Deathstroke. He does have, for his head, he can look left and right, though you kind of have to, because of his neck collar things, you have to kind of tilt the head upwards to get it to turn, far left or far right. And he does have a little up and down movement, not great, but a little bit of tilting back and forth. Standard ball hinged shoulders, and as I said, he's got these shoulder pads that lift upward so that won't hinder the movement of the arm, which is nice. He's got the swivel at the bicep, and he's also got a single hinged elbow, but he can bend the elbow up fairly decently. And then he's got swivel at the glove cup, but no actual ankle articulate, or not ankle, but wrist articulation at all. But again, he does have the swivel at the bottom of the glove. He has, unfortunately, no midsection articulation, not even a swivel, probably because of all the belts and everything. And then he's got standard T-crotch designed for the legs, so he can't do any kind of splits or anything. He can put his leg back and forward. And then he's got single hinged knee, so he can bend his knee halfway decently. And then he's got a hinge at the ankle, so he can move his ankles up and down. No swivel at the ankle, but he does have the up and down movement. So like I said, basic articulation, which is what you find with most of the DC collectibles. It would have been nice if they had made this one of the characters to have added articulation, since, you know, Deathstroke is kind of one of those characters that do a lot of cool poses and stuff, but, you know, unfortunately no ab crunch or no kind of ball joints at the legs or anything. Okay, so that about wraps up my review. You know, basically, if you like the new 52 design of the Deathstroke character, then I think you're really going to like this figure. It seems to me very comic book accurate with lots of details. You know, I like the spikes on the boots and the hook things on the gloves, like, you know, you see with Batman, and then like the chainmail sculpted on the chest, and everything's really nice. And then I like how he comes with the 3 accessories and how they all fit on the actual figure if you don't want him to hold it. Articulation wise, you know, as always, I would like to see maybe a few more points of articulation added, especially with a character like Deathstroke. But if you've been collecting the new 52 line from DC Collectibles, then you pretty much know what you're getting with this figure, because it's pretty standard articulation. So no surprises there. So that's my review. Like I said, this figure is hitting comic book and specialty shops and e-tailers now. So if you want to pick it up, you should be able to go out and find it now. And until next time, I'll check you later.